All right, so Webb. There's a couple different ways to mount, but one really effective way is this. So I'm thinking to myself, I'm gonna pass the guard here, when I go here, so I get to the guard here. He gets that face away kind of holster grip. I immediately have to understand he's got the underhook. I didn't anticipate him doing this, but he did the right thing because he turned away, okay? Because he's got the underhook now. If I don't do anything, he'll start hoisting that underhook. Yes, right there. And he'll go to his knees. Complete it. Yes, right there. Yeah, and even worse, see how he even pushed my head down? I didn't even have a chance to get my head up, okay? So you gotta be aware of that. So as you pass, if they do this right here, I have to immediately go here, okay? And again, the north-south beats this underhook. Even if he, again, begins to go to his knees using that underhook right there, you get him already in the turtle, and you potentially can maybe go back to the face, okay? But we're gonna be talking about just mounting real quick, because what I want you guys to be able to do is this. So before he even faced away, let's say I got him in kind of a side control here, he's turned into this one here, because you gotta keep in mind I didn't rehearse with Webb what we're gonna do, because this isn't Dancing with the Stars, and he's just going with what I'm doing. So it's, you know, to be a good uke or a partner showing techniques, it's definitely it's not for everybody, you know what I mean? But Webb does a great job, and I want to make sure that you guys all of you guys have an opportunity to kind of come up here and understand that the important thing is to be able to demonstrate the technique, while some feel that they need to show that they can beat the technique. So I'm going like a first gear, you know. John, no, I'm just kidding. John's very good. All right, so look, now my objective is to mount him, but the problem is that he's not going to make it easy. Conventionally, you know, to mount this way here and bring my knee across, if his right elbow is at my hip, on the inside of my hip, yes, I don't have a lot of stability here. He can lift my hip, and I can easily lose my position here. It's not the most effective way to mount. It is once you can begin to create movement. You're here, 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 and then you can kind of slide through here. You're keeping your hips low. But oftentimes, that's a good way to lose the mount without even getting to the mount. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna switch my base. I'm here, and what I'm gonna do is, okay, also understand is side control, in our reality, is head control. But when I control the head, I'm not controlling his hip, and immediately he can bring me in. So you're either gonna control the head, or you're gonna control their hip. When you control their hip, then you're not controlling their head. So you have to pick. For me personally, I'd rather control the hip. Because for me to control the head, it doesn't really do me that much good. But what I'm doing is I'm controlling the hip. My hand is here, there's an underhook, and my elbow's off the mat. I'm pulling into his left hip, and my right hip is pushing into his right hip. Okay? So here, it makes it difficult for him to walk his hips away, and for him to turn into me is hard. Okay? And I'm constantly dynamic. And I can always shift my base to go here. I go on the inside of his elbow, and I scoot, and I scoot, and I scoot right here, keeping my head low. Because this arm is the threat, but if he brings it over, he potentially gets Kimura. But sometimes when you're here, you can kind of go across the head and bridge. But if I properly have control here, I'm okay with that. If he gets an underhook with his left hand, that's not very good for me. I can underhook his far leg and counter that underhook. The counter to his underhook is hooking and controlling his leg. Because now when he goes to shoot that underhook, I have his leg. If I don't have his leg and he gets the underhook, he can get me all down. Does that make sense, guys? So you have to be aware. Because see, I want to control this knee here, as I'm aware that this arm may come around any time. If I feel him moving that arm, I want to catch a wrist, threaten a Kimura, and then he'll shove that arm again away and back. And he'll put it right back here, probably the frame here, okay? Right here, I want to be dynamic. Okay, my knee has to be against his hip so that it doesn't follow me, and I can peel his elbow away from his hip. From here, I'm going to go from the near knee, and I'm blocking here because also you don't want to take a knee to the face either, okay? I'm blocking here so it helps me scoot my hips away. The more I scoot my hip into his armpit, and I'm stuck to him also, I'm pinching my elbow, control, I'll do it from the other side too. And what I'm gonna do, and I'm dipping my head down. It doesn't do me any good to keep my head up. It only creates
more opportunities that way, because this is where I'm vulnerable here. So as I'm here, I even kind of trap his arm here. I'm gonna grab this far knee, and I'm gonna pull him in here as I throw the leg over, and I begin to mount with a nice corkscrewy type mount. If I can even get here, this is fine. I like to keep my legs here, because in order for him to escape the mount, he's gonna have to unwind my legs. And I can control here, and my feet should be hooked underneath his feet, like so. Not like this, but like so. Because these hooks, he's gotta get off these hooks in order to be able to escape the mount. And I have to constantly keep readjusting my leg, but my hips are connected. Does that make sense? So, I got the side control, my right elbow to his far hip, my right hip is constantly rolling him, and I'm controlling his head, okay, not his neck, his head right here, because in order for him to now realign his spine with his head, he's got to walk his hips to the right, not to the left. Yes, you see how he has to squirm, and every time I keep taking his head off alignment. So he's moving the incorrect way. In order for him to turn into me, he'd have to turn to his right, but the pressure I apply with my right hip and with this head right here makes it very difficult for him to turn, because his head has to turn the same way as the hip. My right hand is not on the mat, and if you notice, my knees are off the mat, so I'm constantly driving in it, because side control pressure is lateral pressure. There's only so much weight I can apply with gravity, okay? So I'm here and I'm constantly driving because I want to be dynamic here. So as we're here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this arm off the hip, drive my knee into his shoulder. My arm goes from the head, or the arm, to here to the belt, and my left leg straightens. As my left knee comes to this hip, and I start scooting back. I already have my hand on the far knee, which is the knee I want. You can also have it on this near knee right here, okay? But this elbow here, if you can, grab the belt and you're gonna pinch his kind of shoulder elbow, because you have more stability here. So if he goes in front of your head with that left arm, it's a lot harder for him to reach. And even if he scoops your head and then he bridges, I'm still able to regain control. Okay, but now he's got an underhook and I'm here. So even if he has that underhook there, this will also counter that underhook, okay? Because I'm controlling his knee. It'd be better to be here, because now it neutralizes that underhook. But as we're here, okay, I'm gonna pull this in here, and then you mount, okay? And then ideally, you're gonna go to a high mount so that you can begin to turn his head this way here. Here to the seatbelt. I'm gonna go to the back. Take here, and finish. That's kind of what I want to get through today. Okay. So, got side control here. Okay. He's framing his hip, my hip meaning. Remember, in order for this arm to work, this arm has to frame. Frame my hip here, frame my head, and now turn to yourself. Okay, see how effectively that was? Because he framed against me. It's the right hand that makes that frame work. Because if he doesn't have a frame with this hand, use this hand to move your hip up. Do you see that right there? Frame right here. Now move your hip up. You see? Okay. So this only works with this. If this is weak, this is not going to work. So what you have to realize also on top is that you're also making his frame work by pushing into him. So whenever you feel him connecting this frame here, okay, you know that this right here is gonna make this arm work. So as he goes, I disconnect that frame and I pull it off. Does that make sense? Because when I push into it, it's almost better for him if he actually uses it and moves. If he doesn't, he's just gonna sit here, and then I can begin to break that frame down. And if you notice, I'm not on my knees because this creates pressure. So now he's got frame here. You go here, 1, 2, 3, scoop, pull, here, and then get that high mount. Just right here, right away. I'm already on the inside of that elbow, so when I mount, I might as well slide that knee right up in that arm. Otherwise, he'll frame my hip and do what I teach you guys to push this knee down. Because as I have that far underhook, he's got this under. So you got to make sure that you're aware of this. So as we're here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. See, I'm on the inside of that elbow right here. That's what I want. As I go here, I pull. This that kind of extends here. Scoot over here. Slide that knee right up. Because if you don't, and you leave it back here, you can flatten out that leg. Yeah, exactly. Because you should be ready for that. Because imagine if Webb is playing chess, I'm playing chess, but I'm so hungry for that mount, Webb's like, well, I'm gonna let him out. And I do this to Andre all the time. It works. Because this is one of the few things that works on him. There's a lot of power. So as he's here, and Webb's already setting up to put me back in a half guard because he knows I'm gonna mount. So we're here, I go here, as I step over here, he already has, he shoots that underhook, and then see, he already goes my back. So this is a good example of how to let them think that they can mount, but you're already determined to set up your technique 3 steps ahead. And even though that they're mounting, you're gonna wind up in a good position because his underhook is gonna turn into a top position. So let's just kind of go from his perspective here. So we're here, he's framing here. I figure we're gonna go here. Like here, here, here. He shoots that underhook, comes up, 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 up. Yes. And now he's already passing here. Okay. So all I want you guys to do is slide that left knee up right away. And then go. All right, this is a very effective way to mount. And also remember this, you're 1 rotation away from going north-south. 1, look, you're here, he frames. Yes, right here. Look, I can push this down, disconnect, and roll over. He frames. I pull, he pulls down. I try to push down, he pulls up. Okay, see how I kind of disconnected and pulled it up? As I pull up, I switch here, extend my leg here. Now I'm on the inside of his elbow. Pull that knee in, step over here, and slide that knee forward on the inside. Now it's a lot harder for him to push that knee. Does that make sense, guys? Okay, so try that mount. And one more thing, as I was saying before, north-south, look. As I'm here, move this off, this knee, you're basically going in a scarf hold. Here, here, here. But if I feel that I'm not really able to do much here, if he starts putting his hand across my face, yes, I'm now in north-south. So it's just that close. Because sometimes you see, he already feels it. Okay? So let's try it. 1, 2, 3. Most important is that you get smooth movement. Smooth movement. Miles, working with Jordan and Jordan.